All right. So today I'm going to walk through a bunch of the designs that we've made in the Tessellation Academy theory and design workshops. And we're going to take a look at not only what patterns we've created, but also how they were designed. So I'll start with this very first design. And pardon my voice today. I do have a bit of a cold. So I will be taking regular breaks for water. So this first one was in a topic talking about square twists. And what we decided to do, because all of the patterns with alternating closed and open square twists were covered already, they'd already been folded, we added some extra space between the clusters. And so we had this group of 4, and then we had another group of 4, another group of 4, another group of 4. And we're just adding space in certain tiling breaks to get this excuse me. I've done everything I can do to get my voice ready. I've got a cough drop in. We're going to work with it. And so this uses only closed and open square twists. And they're in this pattern that at first glance looks very disorderly. So we figured this out by saying, okay, what twist do we want first? The answer was closed. What twist do we want second? The answer was open. Do we want them on the same or the opposite side? Opposite. Do we want them strictly alternating? Do we want them spaced another way? Spaced another way. So then we figured out, okay, we want these groups of 4, and we want them spaced in this irregular way. Here's one where we figured out something new that I hadn't known was possible before. And that's that you can have 2 right triangles, and that these edges of the right triangles, the long edge of the closed right triangle and the short edge of the open right triangle, those are exactly the same length. And when you fold them next to each other, they lay on the same line. Excuse me. And you can get that same pattern on the back side too. So we named this pattern ski lift. And there's a lot more patterns that in my searching through all of my things that I've taught before, I did not find. But here's a representative and large sample of what these designs are. So here's another pattern that uses a square grid. It uses these clusters of open right triangles around open squares that are on diagonal plates. It's the same cluster that I use in tassels, which is the pattern I'm talking about on Instagram, Facebook, and there will be a short YouTube video later this week. And it alternates those groups with these squares, closed squares with closed right triangles. So the trick here is that as long as the pleats match up between these clusters, you can use whatever clusters you like. And we named it for this side of the pattern and named it Champion Quilt because it really looks like a quilting pattern. And then this one is very much like open lens stars, but it has an extra space, so 3 spaces between valleys to get to those next repeats. And likewise, the process went something like, okay, what size of hexagon? Open. Should the rhombus be on the same or the opposite side? Opposite. And then, should the triangle be in a position of symmetry? No. What size of triangle? Closed or open? Open. And then how much space to the next repeat? Excuse me. This one, I think, was actually playing around with stuff in one of my office hours. But that also led to an interesting design. But it's not a Tessellation Academy design, so I'll put it over to the side. For this pattern, oh, and I'm just seeing there's a compound wrap there that we did not finish folding. And by the way, these patterns, we not only design them in the workshop, but I also teach a tutorial right then and there in the workshop. So you're able to see not only how is the pattern designed, but also how is it folded. And I've done these kinds of workshops in a variety of courses. Tessellations by Tiles is where I started it. I've also done this in advanced twist techniques, but Tessellation Academy has one of these workshops every month, themed to the topic of the month. So in this pattern, we actually designed, instead of from the center out, from the outside in, where we said, okay, we're going to have a rhombus in a position of twofold symmetry. Should it be closed or open? The answer came back open. And when I ask these questions and get answers, I'm going through the participants in the workshop and saying, okay, person A, what do you think for this question? And they give me an answer. And then person B, what do you think for the next question? They give me an answer. We build the pattern bit by bit, everyone collaboratively contributing to the design. So we figured out we wanted that open rhombus. Then we said, okay, the next rhombus connected to that, I want to be closed and on the opposite side. And we figured out from that the spacing to these rhombi, and what would be symmetric is an open triangle on the same side. And then we used those pieces of information to copy out in the crease pattern this whole ring of twists, and that sent pleats in to make the open hexagon in the center. Now this particular one, I remember we did a lot of iterating, where we said, oh, I want this, I want that, I want the other. Oh, that makes like a quadruple open hexagon in the middle. Let's go back to the drawing board, tweak a few things, see if we can get a more reasonable hexagon. So that'll often come up in these workshops as well, where we're figuring out, oh, I like this, I don't like that, let's change this, let's edit here, edit there. And then some of the patterns have fewer choices. Like for this one, we wanted to have a closed triangle with a open trapezoid and a closed double depth that's an open double depth triangle right there. And that triangle is in a position of symmetry, and we want to have those groups of twists mirroring as close together as possible. So the reason these 6 triangles aren't all the way together is because at the other end of this, there are 2 triangles close together in the pattern. So you can't actually bring it closer in that direction. Excuse me. But yeah, all kinds of cool stuff coming from here. This one came out of our topic of folding in stripes, and it mixes stripes with hexagons and stripes with trapezoids. So basically this pattern, you've got the hexagon with triangles on the opposite side. And then for your trapezoid stripes, instead of having a whole hexagon, You split it into half a hexagon, a trapezoid, on one side, and the other half on the other side. And then the triangles are following that trapezoid. So the triangles are on the opposite side of the hexagon. They're on the opposite side of the trapezoid that they connect to as well. And with this pattern, you can freely move between the hexagon stripes and the trapezoid stripes. And you can change the spacing between the trapezoids. You can do like 2 stripes of trapezoids and then a stripe of hexagons. It's super flexible as a design situation. This one was fun. Let me quickly wipe my nose. This one was particularly fun because I figured out something new that I had not figured out about trapezoid twists before. So these are open trapezoid and closed trapezoid twists. And kind of like I was talking about with the stripes of the last pattern, as long as the pleats match up and you have like the same sequence of distances between pleats. In this case, there's a mountain fold coming out of these tips of trapezoids, and then there's 2 spaces to the valley fold below, and then there's 2 spaces to the next valley, and then a mountain, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces. Repeat the cycle. So as long as you have that on all of your stripes, you can match them all up. Which previously I thought you had to like strictly alternate the closed and the open trapezoids in the pattern, or you could mirror things, but no. You can have a stripe of all open and a stripe of all closed, and you can put those together in any sequence you like. I could do close, closed, open, close, closed, open. It all works. This one, I don't know, may have been from earlier. Doesn't have a precise name on it. I was just going through my bins of hundreds of patterns that I've taught and picking out the ones that I thought I remembered were Tessellation Academy. Excuse me. But it's illustrating a design in the hexagons and triangles 3-fold tiling, where you have this 3-fold hybrid hexagon. So yes, those are 6 pleats coming from this twist that looks like a triangle. And then triangle twists on the back off of the open type pleats, and then mirror symmetry as densely as possible. And that defines the pattern. You could change your pattern and have it be triangle twists off of the closed type pleats, for example. So it's going through figuring out, okay, do we want one kind of cluster or 2? What kind of hexagon do we want? What kind of triangle? Is it on the same or the opposite side? What size? And then elaborating the pattern from there. Here's one where we actually went down the design tree and said, okay, there's this one branch that's never been done before. Let's just fill that in. So when I talk about a design tree, I'm talking about a document that I make for my students. I'm going to bring up this particular design tree for the hexagons and triangles 2-fold tiling. And there we go. So in this tiling, there are stripes of hexagons and triangles. The hexagons connect to other hexagons on 2 of the pleats, and they're connecting to triangles on the other 4 pleats. And your choices are, okay, is your hexagon closed or open? With the assumption, so that's this alternating twist bit, that you're picking one hexagon, one triangle. So is your hexagon closed or open? And then is your triangle on the same or the opposite side? And is that triangle closed or open? So the red is all mountain folds all on the same side. Blue means that triangle is on the opposite side. You have valley folds in the center of the triangle in the crease pattern. And the open hole means that it's an open twist. So we were looking at this and we said, well, all of the closed hexagon with closed triangle, well, with closed and open triangle twists have been done. But what we don't have is open hexagon with open triangle on the opposite side. We don't have open hexagon with open triangle on the same side. So we went ahead and filled in both of those gaps. So this is open hexagon with open triangle on the opposite side. We've got that mirror symmetry. And then this is open hexagon with open triangle on the same side. And then we went ahead and did some modifications here where we said, okay, if I start with open triangles, well, then I can go ahead and just shift that pleat one space down and make those into closed triangles. If I start out with open hexagons, then I can shift the pleat between the hexagons, tucking that corner under. And we can do this on this pattern because there's a lot of open space. But really this is applicable to a lot of designs. We can turn those into two-fold rectangle hybrid hexagon twists. Not a problem. And if we want to keep the symmetry in the middle of the twist, then we'd better shift these triangles as well. And one of the cool things about Tessellation Academy is that all of this discussion, all of this operation is recorded and available in the member portal. So if you want to go and see exactly what we did for each of these patterns, then you can do that. At training.gatheringfolds.com/academy, you can sign up as a monthly, annual, or permanent member, and then you can go see all of the videos where we designed these patterns. This one is a fun one. It ended up being exactly a spaced out version of something that I'd already designed, but I'd still consider it its own design. These shapes that look like rhombi, if you notice that they're not rhombi, you might think they look like closed trapezoids, but actually there's more going on still. This little half-closed hexagon underneath, that is a hybrid hexagon twist. It's an irregular hybrid hexagon twist that has two-fold rotational symmetry of pleats. So the individual thing doesn't look very symmetric, but the trick is you can take it and flip it the other way without moving any of the pleats. And so you can treat this twist as a position of symmetry in the pattern, and that's what we chose to do, where there's two of the same thing on opposite sides and three of the same around this triangle. So that, again, was built by saying, okay, central hexagon, closed or open. Triangle around it, closed or open, same or opposite side, opposite side. Then what kind of hybrid twist do we want? Do we want a symmetric one or an asymmetric one? Symmetric. Do we want it two-fold or three-fold symmetric? Two-fold. Okay, which of the two-fold? The rectangle, the diamond, or this irregular? Irregular. What rotation? of the 3 possible rotations, and we looked at it on the crease pattern, saying, okay, it could go this way, it could go that way, it could go the other way. And we made sure that it would work out with the spacing of everything. Well, that was another question. How close do you want the triangle to the hexagon? Tube pleat spacing. And once we positioned our irregular hybrid hexagon, that locked in this triangle because it has to be a position of symmetry. So once you have 2 of these irregular hybrid hexagons, that determines the size and location of the symmetric triangle position, because there's 3 of the same around it. And another cool thing that I got to demonstrate with this pattern is that even if you have irregular hybrid hexagon twists, you can still respect the symmetry of the 3-fold positions. You just end up treating the 6-fold position like a 3-fold position. So you've got these notches in and these notches out. And then I forget if this one was a more direct tutorial or a Tessellation Academy design. It doesn't have a name on it, which makes me think it wasn't one of our designs. This very well could have been. It's a cluster 6, cluster 4, cluster 4 pattern. We definitely talked about those. Then there's more patterns. One of our square grid patterns, where I've got that closed square, hybrid hexagon, and we picked an open square for the position of symmetry. See, there's the same thing on opposite sides. Excuse me. And from there, that determined the size of this other square in a position of symmetry. And in this one, I actually drew out, okay, if this is a position of symmetry, then in the crease pattern, I can draw a line from the center of this square to the center of that square, and then rotate that line 90 degrees, and the end is going to end up in the middle of this square. And that's something we know from the math of tessellations with 4-fold rotational symmetry. These symmetry points, 4-fold, 2-fold, other 4-fold, 2-fold, form a square. And that's how the pattern can repeat. So as long as we have those 3 symmetry points and we know that those are valid and everything around it is valid, the whole pattern works. One of the cool things about origami tessellations. This ended up being a super cool design. We did not try to have this giant hexagon made of twist boundaries. It just kind of turned out that way. What we did is we said, okay, central hexagon, closed or open, closed, triangle, same side, closed. Next hexagon, hybrid on the back. This is another one where we figured out, we went through a couple of different possibilities before settling on this one. But this pattern can repeat infinitely, which is kind of crazy. And there's not enough on this paper, on 32 grid divisions, to show precisely how, but it does end up working out, which is wild. The bottom line is that these 2 twists are the same as these 2 twists, if I remember correctly. So that's what's going on overall in this pattern. And this is another one that we had to massage a little to get it to work out. We went with closed hexagon, open triangle on the back, closed rhombus on the front. And then feeding out, we've got this triangle, open rhombus. This is actually a trapezoid hybrid hexagon. So that's an asymmetric position in the pattern. You don't actually see the outer symmetry positions here, but we did determine that the pattern would repeat. And again, if you go into Tessellation Academy, you can see all of those recordings. So, continuing. This one turned out really cool. We actually started from the outside with these flagstone motifs of trapezoids, added in some more trapezoids that are flagstone with the rest, and we said, okay, there's got to be mixed depth hexagons. And coming in towards the middle, I gave a choice for that trapezoid, whether it should be closed or open, and the response came back closed, which is different from all the rest of them out here. And all of a sudden, I started to recognize that is the same motif as near miss, one of the patterns I taught in Advent of Tess last year. That means, well, actually, it's the rotated form. I included a pattern in the Advent of Tess 2025 ebook, which is this flagstone pattern. And I knew that I was doing that, I think, before this workshop, but it just so happened that we started with that flagstone motif, worked in, and ended up with this flagstone motif on the back. So this one, I'm going to end up folding with more repeats because it's just too cool to not do it. It's going to be a pain in the rear, but it's going to be super cool. This one, we started playing with double open and closed hybrid square twists. So again, following the principles that we were working with on the other pattern, I've got my two-fold position actually outside of a square in this one. And yeah, there's just so much going on. Functionally, you can think of these patterns as open square with closed squares on the back, making a plus sign in the tiling, and then open square with these wild hybrid hexagons, making another plus sign, and those plus signs interlock across the whole tiling. And in the Tessellation Academy, the PDF, the tiling diagrams, the beginning of the theory workshop, I explain all of the details of this tiling, of the symmetry extension on the tiling. So then when we get into the design, we actually know what we're doing, what we're going for. This one's another fun, recent Tessellation Academy design. We named it Hobbit Holes. It actually has these hybrid hexagon twists on both sides of the paper, has closed triangle twists on both sides. And we did this by treating 3 different hexagon locations as positions of threefold rotational symmetry. So on this one, the closed triangles are on the front from the open pleats and on the back from the closed type pleats. And then we actually see that same motif, but here it's spaced further out. Here these triangles are closer in. And it just so happened to work out beautifully to get all of these different twists in the same pattern, or rather the 2 different twists in many different locations. So we've got one hexagon, one type of triangle on this side, and then 2 distinct hexagons and another position of triangle. That if you notice, all of these triangles are in that same situation in the broader pattern when you take the symmetry into account. Then there's this one. We were looking at mixed depth hexagon twists and decided, excuse me. Almost there, y'all. We decided to use both threefold and twofold mixed up hexagons in the same pattern. And that led to open double depth triangles, open single depth, excuse me, and closed single depth. So we called this Triangle Showcase. I'll just speed run the last two. Here we were looking at clusters of 4 triangles. So this is January's topic. And we picked this cluster with double open triangles. Excuse me. And this cluster with triple open triangles, just to get off of the design tree that shows stuff with closed and open only. Then last month, we were looking at hybrid, or sorry, not, well, also hybrid, but we were looking at compound square twists. So that's square twists inside of bigger square twists, and designed this basically herringbone pattern of compound square twists. So very cool patterns that are coming out of Tessellation Academy. And there's another one that's super cool that I did not find when I was looking through my stuff today. So I'm going to bring it up on screen. Actually, there's a couple, so I'll just scroll through. Okay. So here we figured out a different kind of tiling to use with the right triangle twists. We have that ski lift pattern that I mentioned before. That one we saw. This one was another cool one that I didn't find this morning when I was looking through stuff. Likewise, this one. These are 3 different hybrid hexagon twists in the same pattern. That one we talked about. Likewise, that one. And these next 2. 3. Ooh, yeah, that one was cool too. That one we also designed from the outside into the center, because it's really hard to get the 2-fold position in a rhombus and the 3-fold position in a triangle if you're starting from a choice of hexagon and rhombus, but you can always land on a hexagon if you work from the outside in. That one we saw, and that one, and that one. Oh, this was another cool one. We took a look at patterns with mixed depth rhombus twists and basically took the sort of just rhombi equivalent and spaced it out one spacing further, which changed the triangle from closed to open. So it was interesting to see that that pattern holds, that I had seen in the tiling, the same tiling with regular rhombus twists instead of mixed depth. That pattern of spacing it out, changing the triangle by one size, still holds with the mixed depth twists. And then these guys, so both this one and the next one were designed in the same session. We were looking at the hexagons and triangles threefold tiling. This one uses open and double open hexagons. That first one uses, oh yeah, those big triangles. Those are hybrid hexagon twists. It's closed and double open hexagon, hybrid hexagons. So definitely a mind bender. And then this is the super cool one that I wanted to show. Like, we literally came up with this by doing that question and answer routine. And we came up with something that I never would have explored otherwise. So I kind of came into it with this idea of, hey, maybe we can do an iso area pattern. And what we ended up with are these spirals where the right triangle twists are kind of overlapping, which I thought would be a royal pain to fold, but it turns out it works fine. And you get those spirals on both sides of the paper. Super cool. And then I think everything after this, I found there's two patterns that were from Advanced Twist Techniques, and then, yeah, this list we already saw. So yeah, there's a ton of cool patterns inside of Tessellation Academy that go beyond what's included in the ebooks. So the Volume 1 and the Volume 2 ebooks that are out now. And you can find all of these Tessellation Academy designs inside of Tessellation Academy itself. And yeah, hi Arlu. Yeah, I'm also hoping to recover from this cold. So Hatteras spiral, I think, is the best pattern that we've come up with, but there's a lot of bangers in this stack. So I mean, this Hobbit holes pattern, for example, is just so surprising and elegant. So I really like it for that. And then this one with the flagstone motifs on both sides, that's super cool. And this one with that great big hexagon outline. This excuse me. Very cool. So lots of fun stuff that you can find inside of Tessellation Academy. And I'm running a sale on Tessellation Academy for the next week only. So it's been open, sale's been on for a week, one more week. On March 17th, at the end of the day, sale will be over. And who knows when it's coming back. I don't run sales very often. So right now you can sign up for Tessellation Academy for $11 a month or $95 a year. And you get access to all of these past topics. So there's 25 topics already released. And sweeten the deal. So there's not just the theory and design workshops, there's also 2 tutorials per topic and 8 crease patterns, including the 2 in the tutorials. The tutorial coming out tomorrow uses compound hexagon twists. So that's a fun one. and I encourage you to go check it out. Happy folding, everyone, and see you next week.